Welcome to the structural analysis class. So this is the last lecture of this course. So till now we have started soil mechanics in last two lecture before. Then we have discussed origin of soil, and then we have seen different properties of soil. Right, in the last class we have seen the shear stress properties of soil. So today we'll discuss our last topic in this course, that is structural analysis AR 304 3.4 BS. This is foundation engineering. So this is our 21st lecture, which is not the last lecture. So here we'll discuss about the most critical part of any structure, that is the foundation. So at the beginning of this course, we have discussed the analysis of structure, how we can analyze. We have seen different methods to analyze. Either it may be determinant or indeterminate, whatever it may be. How to draw the bending moment shear force diagram, and then we have seen deflections, slopes, calculations of determinant and indeterminate structure. Now that was about the superstructure part. So as I think already many of you know, a structure can be divided into two parts broadly. One is superstructure part, which is just above the ground surface, and the substructure part, which is nothing but the below the ground level. So that comes under our foundation engineering. So foundation making a very vital role in a structure because it transfers load into the soil, surrounding soil. Right. So in the last lecture, we have last two lectures we have discussed about the properties of soil. Here we have seen the what are the good properties of a soil, or what are the properties if the soil has, then we can tell it is a good soil or so. So now today we'll see foundation engineering, in that this is the bottommost structure of any building, or it may be bridges, where the entire load is transferred to the nearby surrounding soils basically. So just before starting our main foundation analysis, let's see the different types of foundations. So foundations are largely classified into two broad categories. One is shallow foundation, another is deep foundation. So by the name itself, you can understand what is shallow foundation and what is deep foundation. Shallow foundation is when the depth of the foundation is very less compared, maybe 2 meter, 3 meter maximum below the ground surface. That foundation type we call it shallow foundation. And deep foundation is if the foundation depth is longer than maybe 3 meter, 4 meter. It goes up to 25-30 meter below the ground surface. Also, in some cases, we need to go for deep foundations. So there, so that is largely there are two parts, two classifications: shallow foundation and deep foundation. So again, under the shallow foundation, you have multiple types of foundations, right? One is spread foundation, another is mat foundation. So now you may ask why we need so many types of foundations. Even simple foundation is also fine for stability, giving stability to the structure, but not. So in different cases, maybe you have to construct a structure on a wetland. Maybe earlier there was a pond or lake or some maybe wetland there you have to construct. So the soil condition may not be good in that case. So you may need to go for maybe deep foundation or something like that. So depending on the situations, we may choose which foundation is suitable for our site. That's why you have to understand in a brief about all types of foundations. So shallow foundations are largely classified into two types. One is spread footing, another is mat foundation. And deep foundations are classified into three normal categories, that is driven pile, drilled shafts, and auger casting piles. So in the subsequent slides, we'll see in details about each of these foundation types. So let's get started about different types of foundations. So here the comparison is which one is shallow foundation, which one is deep foundation. So the definition of shallow foundation is founded near to the finished ground surface, that is very near to your ground surface. The shallow foundation lies where the founding depth is less than the width of the footing. So for example, you have a footing. Let me just draw it quickly. So for example, this will be maybe our footing plan view, or if you take a cross section view of a column will be something like that, you can imagine. So this is a column, so this portion, okay, and this is your ground level. So this portion is below the ground, and this portion we call it footing or the foundation part. Okay, so now here in shallow foundation, basically this portion, this how much depth it is below the ground surface. So this portion we call it founding depth. So if founding depth is less than the width of the footing, so width means if you see the plan view of this footing, it may be rectangular or it may be circular. So if it is rectangular, then if the width may be 2 meter by 2 meter foundation, so if it is less than this depth is less than the width of the foundation, then we call it is a shallow foundation. So normally up to 2 meter, we call it shallow foundation. It includes 2 to 3 meter maximum. It includes footing, mat, raft, foundation, everything. Now what is then deep foundation or pile foundation also we call it. So pile foundation is long and slender structural member which transfers load to a deeper soil on a rock, okay, of high bearing capacity, avoiding the shallow soil of low bearing capacity. So now the next question is, when we can construct shallow foundation, why we need pile foundation or deep foundation? Because as I mentioned, if the depending on the soil quality, if soil quality is very bad, so in that case we have to, that this length under the below the ground surface will be very high, because you have to, your structure should stand on a hard soil or a hard strata. So to reach up to hard strata, you may need very long deep pile. That's what we call it, pile foundation. Until and unless you reach the deeper soil or the rock, your this foundation will depth will increase, and ultimately will get pile foundation. So now we'll see shallow foundations. What is basically it means? So basically it is economical, because shallow foundation is, the depth is very less. So maybe up to 2 meter you have to dig into the soil, and you have to construct shallow foundation. So usually this is more economical option, because you may not need to dig the soil much. Maybe 2 meter is sufficient. So that is one advantage of using the shallow foundation. As a general rule, consider deep foundation only when the shallow foundation do not give satisfactory design. So when we go for deep foundation, when the shallow foundation is not adequate, our first preference will be shallow foundation. We want to construct our structure using shallow foundation itself. But if the soil quality is very poor, if its soil not permitting that much load to transfer in the soil, it may fail. So in that case, we have to go with deep foundation. So as I mentioned, the types of shallow foundations are, these are the different types of shallow foundation, spread footing, either it may be square shape or circular shape or rectangular shape, whatever it may be. Next we have combined footing, when the two footings are combined together, then we call it combined footing. Then we have continuous footing, and then we have the raft and mat foundation or footing. So in the next slide we'll see in each category in detail. So these are the shallow foundations. So this is a shallow foundation of a spread type, which is nothing but a square. If you see, this is our main column. All the loads are coming through this column and transferred to this foundation, and this foundation will transfer the load into the surrounding soil, right? So this is a spread footing which comes under shallow foundation, right? So if you see, this is a square, right? So whatever b width, I mean both the direction width and length both are same. So this is square type spread footing. So this one, if you see, this is a rectangular type spread footing. So now depending on the loads, depending on the area available, we have to choose which footing we need. For example, normally if you have a square column, then maybe square footing is sufficient. But if you have a rectangular column's plane itself is rectangular. So in that case, it is preferable to have a rectangular footing. Similarly, if your column is a circular column, then also foundation may be good if you choose a circular foundation. So these are the different shapes you can adopt depending on the site condition and availability of material, everything. Now this is the example of continuous column. So in case of continuous footings, what will happen is in a continuous, so all the columns will be laid in a same platform. So this is the same platform you can see, and all the columns one by one. Although there will be gap, so in the figure it is not visible, but each arrow is one column. So all the columns are lying in a single base. So this type of footing, we call it continuous footing. All the footings are continuous. Then we have combined footing. Combined footing means two columns. Say two columns are together in one block, one footing. Now you may ask why we need all these types of footings. I mean, this is fine, right? Single footing, or this one rectangular also fine. But why we need two? So sometimes what happens, the soil quality below that is very poor. Okay. So then in that case, what will happen? So we have to avoid the deep foundation as much as possible, because deep foundation will increase the cost of construction, right? So if the soil quality is very bad and you do not want to go for deep foundation, then what are the alternatives you have? One alternative is you can increase the area under the footing. So in the combined footing, basically if you see, the area under this footing is increased. Now the load, whatever load is coming through the columns, it will be spread to a larger area. So if, although the soil quality may not be that good, but the force distribution is quite large compared to this one. Right here, force distribution will be very small area. If you see at the bottom, area will be very small. Whereas combined footing, the area is very large compared to this single cases. So in that case, you may employ combined footing, or it may be you want to construct a building where where the final column, you don't have much space left in the left side. For example, this column, if you want to construct, right? So this is a corner column and there is not much space in the left because of boundary wall or something. So in that case, what will you do? You can combine these two columns like that. You can make at this corner, like all the corners or all the side edge columns, you can make a combined column, and middle columns maybe you can use a single column, something like that. So depending on the location, depending on the load, how much loads are coming, you can choose any of these foundations, and obviously you have to look into which one is economical for the construction also. So this one is combined footing as we discussed, and the last type in the shallow foundation is met foundation. So this one is the diagram for the met foundation. So what is met foundation? Met foundation is, it is just inverted slab, right? So you dig the soil maybe 2 meter depth, entire area you dig it out, all the soil you remove it from, entire plain area, building plain area, remove entire soil, and then you make a slab at the bottom. After you dig 2 meter, construct a slab at the bottom, and then from the slab itself you start, this type of columns will coming out from the slab itself. So this entire building plain area is now reinforced concrete, or you know so it is just an inverted slab, you can imagine, and all the columns are coming from the this type of foundation itself. So this foundation we call it met foundation, right? Similar to met, the foundation looks like. So when you go for met foundation, so met foundation, when the soil quality is very poor and you do not want to go for deep foundation, in that case you can check once whether the met foundation is adequate to transfer the load. Because met foundation, if you see the area, load transfer area is entire building base area loads are transferred, right? So in that case, the load transmission area is very large. So although the bearing capacity of the soil may be poor, but the stress will be less, because what is the stress? Stress is forced by area, right? If area is increasing, although force P is constant, but if you increase, stress will decrease, right? So that's what we are doing in a raft foundation. So we are increasing the area, transfer area. So load P is constant, how much structural load is coming, that is constant, but the area of load transfer we are increasing. So because of that, stress on the soil will now reduce. So that is our main objective, because bearing pressure in that case of soil may be loose, may be low. So in that case, you can go with raft foundation. So second category is the deep foundation. So one is shallow, another is deep one. So deep one, if you see, this is a long column continues below the ground surface. So here is your ground surface. The soil here may be very poor condition. The quality of soil is not good. So when you dig into 20 meter, 30 meter depth, you will find hard rock. So this, deep gray color is actually hard rock. So hard rock is maybe at the 20 meter, 30 meter deep. So in that case, you have to go with this type of pile foundations, where the load will be transferred to the hard starter. So this is another category. This is a category of deep foundation. Deep foundation also there is two types. One is drilled or poured, and another one is a driven type. So two types of foundations are there. What is drilled? Drilled means you make a hole on a ground through maybe some auger bore auger machine or something. Make a hole in a ground and then you pour the concrete. So first you make a hole and then you insert reinforcement and then you pour concrete here. So this is drilled or and poured type of pile. And next one is driven. So this one is driven means this concrete pile is already made on a ground surface, and you are hitting in this end the entire pile will go down. So basically you are driving this pole into the ground. So this is the another category, that is driven pile. So now the next question is, what are the factors affecting the bearing capacity of a soil? Now we understood what is bearing capacity of a soil. Bearing capacity of a soil means how much load, how much stress the soil can take before failure. So that is the bearing capacity of a soil. If the bearing capacity of a soil is very good, then you can go with a shallow foundation. But if the bearing capacity of soil is very poor, then you have to go with either mat foundation or you can go with deep foundation. So what are the factors affecting the soil bearing capacity of a soil? First one is the soil strength. As you have seen in the last slide or in the last lecture, we are discussing about the shear strength of a soil. If a soil has a less shear strength, so it comes so that the bearing capacity of the soil also will be less. So soil strength depends on, so the soil bearing capacity depends on the soil strength. So if soil strength is very poor or loose graded soil, in that case the bearing capacity of soil also will be less. Now foundation width. So if the foundation width is very small, so in that case, for example, this is the plan of the foundation, right? So this is a rectangular type or square type foundation. If the foundation width, this width is very small, then what will happen? Or maybe this entire area, this foundation is very small, what will happen? Although you have good bearing capacity of a soil surrounding, but the stress will increase. Why? What is the definition of stress? Stress sigma is equal to force by cross-sectional area, right? So that is the definition of a stress. So when the area is very low, this transfer area is very low. In that case, what will happen? A value is less, means stress will be more in a surrounding soil. So soil may fail. Although you have high bearing capacity of soil, but because of less area and of foundation, the soil may fail. I mean, because of load. Then the foundation depth. So if you go more deeper and deeper soil, the bearing capacity of a soil normally increases. So foundation depth also is the one parameter. If you find it out bearing capacity of the top layered soil, you will find less value. But whereas if you go deeper and deeper, you will find the bearing capacity increases with the foundation depth. Now soil weight and surcharge. So what is surcharge? Surcharge means how much load is there above the foundation, and soil weight, how much. If soil above the foundation is very heavy, in that case the bearing capacity also will increase. Spacing between the foundation, so two foundation spacing also it depends. Then earthquake and dynamic motions. If the area located under the earthquake prone area, in that case what will happen? Ground will shake very frequently, yearly twice or thrice ground shaking will happen because of earthquake. So in that case the bearing capacity of soil also may degrade because of earthquake. Then frost action, in the Himalayan region during winter time, or maybe in the summertime also, if you see some portion there will be snowfall and all will be happening. These also maybe affects the bearing capacity of a soil. Similarly, subsurface voids. If the soil has more pores, more voids, this also reduces the bearing capacity of a soil. So all these parameters are very much important. We have to judge to find it out the bearing capacities of a soil. Now the next question is, how will you find it out the bearing capacities of a soil? So there are different methods, geotechnical investigation methods are available to find it out the bearing capacity of a soil. So in this course, we won't go into depth of all the analysis methods, but we'll discuss only one method in this presentation, that is the plate bearing capacity, place bearing test. Whereas these are the different methods using which you can find it out the bearing capacity of a soil. Analytical methods are the plate bearing test, penetration test, modern testing methods, centrifugal test, and presumptive analysis. All these are the methods to finding out the bearing capacity of a particular soil. Now let's see what are the different types of failures, or how soil fails because of load. So soil, if the soil is very good condition, maybe hard rock, bedrock is there just at the ground surface level, then soil quality is very good. In that case, soil may not fail, rock may not fail. But if you have a not great quality of soil or the moderate dense quality of soil, and you are applying more load, then what will happen? There will be failure. Settlement will take place in the foundation. So that we call it failure of a soil. So when settlement takes place, when the foundation settles in, then we call it the soil has failed. So we have basically three types of failures. First one is general shear failure, second case is local shear failure, and third one is punching shear failure. There are three kinds of failures are there. So this, what is general shear failure? General shear failure is, so when the load is applied and this is this is the foundation, and the this below the foundation, these areas entire soil got failed in the sense, the shear strength or bearing pressure, the bearing capacity exceeded the load. So in that case, what will happen? The soil, this dotted line was the initial ground level was like that, but when the soil failed, means that this foundation now settled, and this is a failure plane. You can see this is a failure plane. Okay, and this foundation will now settle down, and another soil will uplift in both the sides of foundation. So this type of failure we call it general shear failure. If you see the load settlement curve for this type of failure, when the loads are increasing gradually, the settlement also increases smallly, gradually. But after certain point, when the settlement reaches to its optimum value, what will happen? Suddenly, the entire structure will settle down, and see the settlement increases suddenly, very quickly. So this type of failure, we call it general shear failure. So all nearby to these areas, the soil has failed in this category. Now the next category is local shear failure. What is local shear failure? So same, our structure is here, foundation is here, and the loads are acting here. So because of the load, the soil just below the foundation, this portion of the soil got failed. Right, so that's why you can see a small upliftment you will see in the both sides of the foundation. But here the soil failed very near to the foundation. So this type of failure we call it local shear failure. Whereas here in the general shear failure, soil failed in a comparatively large areas, entire soil has failed. Whereas in this case, only the soil below the ground foundation only failed. So this is the local shear failure, and you can see the graph also, settlement versus load. Gradually the failure occurred. So here you can see sudden failure occurred in the general shear failure, but in the local shear failure you can see that dramatic failure pattern. You will see gradually the failure will happen. So this is the local shear failure. And the third category in our soil failure mechanism is the punching shear. What is punching shear? When the foundation itself starts penetrating into the soil. So in first two cases, if you see, the soil has uplifted, both the case portion soil has uplifted, right? But in the punching shear, soil won't uplift, just the because of heavy load, or because of the low bearing pressure, the low bearing capacity, the entire foundation got settled. Gradually it is settling, it is penetrating into the soil. So that's why the name is also punching shear failure. Okay, so so where you will find the general shear failure? When the soil is very dense, like in a rock, hard rock, or in a very dense soil, you will find this type of failure, general shear failure. Whereas if the soil is moderately dense, then you will find the local shear failure. And when the soil is very loose soil, not at all compaction done, or maybe the soil is not at all dense, in that case, the punching shear will happen. So simply the foundation will penetrate into the ground surface, and you can see the failure pattern also. So gradually when the load increases, gradually the settlement increases. Okay, so these are the different three types of failure happening in the soil. So now, what are the methods to improve the bearing capacity? Because as an engineer or as an architecture, you will be asked to design a structure maybe on a wetland. You cannot tell that I cannot design it on a wetland because the bearing capacity of the wetland is low. You have to construct it anyway. So in that case, what you have to do? You have to improve the bearing capacity of the soil. If the soil bearing capacity is very poor, then you have to improve it using different methods. So what is first method? By increasing the depth of the foundation. As this is our first method we saw, right? So if the bearing pressure is very low, in that case, we have to increase the depth of the foundation. Means we have to go for deep foundation or something like that. This is one method to increase the bearing capacity. Next one is, by draining the soil. So if water is penetrated, water is poured into the soil grain, then the bearing pressure obviously will be less. If you allow somewhere the inside water to drain off, so in that case the bearing capacity will be increased. Similarly, by compaction, if you compact the soil, the soil density will increase, and all the air and water will come out from the soil, and the bearing capacity also will increase. Similarly, by confining the soil, by increasing the width of the foundation, by replacing the poor soil, if somewhere if you have the poor soil, you replace it with good soil, then you can improve the bearing capacity. By grouting means grouting is the one type of material which you can inject into the ground to improve the bearing capacity. By chemical treatment, you add some chemicals into the ground and then compact it, stabilize it, then also it will increase the bearing capacity of a soil. Then you have by using the geotextile. So many geotextile materials are available which we install on a ground, or which we simply put it on a ground to increase the bearing capacity of a soil. So now, even though you increased everything, still you may find the settlement of foundation has happened. So settlement of a foundation may be classified into two parts. One is immediate settlement. Once you enter construct a structure, within 6 months or so, the building's one portion will be settled, right? So that is immediate or elastic settlement. This is happening because of clay and sand. If it is there in the foundation, this type of settlement you will find it out. And another is the time dependent settlement. So after 5 year, 10 year, 15 year, you will see one portion of the building get collapsed or maybe it's made settled. So because of that, maybe some cracks you will find in a building, which takes a lot of time to settle. That is the time dependent type of settlement. So time dependent type of settlements happens because of the consolidation of soil, whereas initial immediate settlement happen because of elastic settlement. If the water is entrapped here, if you construct, you apply a load, then immediately water will come out and the soil will settle. So that is the immediate settlement will be happening. Or maybe because of rain happened, because of that soil inside that was wet, and that may cause also settlement. So settlement may cause in that there are two ways. One is immediately settlements happen, and another may be the long term settlement happen. So this is our last slide of this course, that is the plate load test. So using plate load test, basically we can find it out how much is the bearing capacity of a soil. So using this method, what will happen, just on a field site where we will construct our structure, there you have to dig a small portion, 1 meter or so. So this type of trench we have to make on a soil. So this type of trench we are making. And then as it is going, that plate load test means there will be a small plate we have to keep on a middle portion of this trench. So small plate we are keeping, and above this plate, this type of loads we are applying. These are the sandbags. Sandbags we are keeping just on a above this plate, which will induce the load into the soil. So now, because of this entire load, what will happen? The soil will now settle below that. Settlement takes place, right? So that settlement, we just observe it. This is a graph. We'll plot it with how much loading you are increasing, and the settlement also take increasing gradually. So different types of graphs you will get it, and based on these graphs and based on these settlement values by loading condition, you may find it out what is the bearing pressure of the soil. Okay, so if the settlement curve is something like that, then it is a cohesive soil. If settlement curve is like that, then it is a dense, cohesionless soil. So different types of soils you can classify based on the plate load test. So here one plate is there, and we are applying the load. So through sandbag or any other means, then this method, that's why it is called plate load test. So find it out the bearing pressure of a soil. So that's how we are completing our this course of structure analysis. So in this course we have studied starting with that stresses and all. We started with compound stresses and all. Then we discussed about structure analysis part, that is how to calculate the displacement, shear force, bending moment diagram, shear force diagrams, right? Slope calculations using different method, geometric method, right? Then energy method. Then we have seen an analysis of the soils also. We have seen in the last few classes, we have seen in details different types of soils and the properties of soil. And in this lecture we have seen the foundation, introduction to different important terms of foundation. So that completes our course content. I hope you guys have understood in details, and you have now total overview of engineering aspect of any construction. Thank you so much.